Hey everyone, Amia here from Resonance Astrology, and I'm joined as always by lovely Duna Holler, and we are greeting you kindly to our Decan Dance series, which involve talking about the decans, which are the 10 degrees increments of each zodiac sign. So when you split, in this case Libra, in three parts, because Libra is, as every sign, 30 degrees it involves 30 degrees. So when we split that into three parts, we have the first 10 degrees, the middle 10 degrees, and the last 10 degrees of Libra, and they constitute of the decans. So depending on if you have, let's just say your Venus, maybe at 5 degree, at 17 degree, or at 28 degrees of Libra, it's gonna show up different in your life depending on which decan it is. And this is what we focus on here on in this series. And we're like halfway through because with Libra, we're officially starting the second half. So it's been a lovely journey so far. And what we also always do, this is like an introductory video on YouTube. So we try to keep them informational while also keeping them short and digestible. After that, there is also an Instagram post that is also always involved, but not everybody is on Instagram, of course. But there is an Instagram post, and then afterwards, at the end, we round it off with a live workshop. And the live workshops are really the in-depth part where we go into example charts of people and we kind of give you the real life examples of how this is showing up in people's lives. And we're also have a segment where we talk about transits that are currently up in the air with Libra. We are actually probably going to talk about Venus going through all the decans of Libra, so that's going to be interesting. And we also bring in poems, we bring in quotes, we go more in depth into the tarot cards. And at the end, we have a segment which we do not record, is where people can share their own stories or their own experiences. And you kind of get the opportunity to get your chart read to some extent, at least the Libra Decan part, if you have any placements in Libra, or maybe you know people that have placements in Libra. So this is a perfect opportunity to join. And actually, we decided we are gonna have a bit of a discount if you join for the whole course, just because we did already do the first half. So half of the zodiac we've already been through. And so I think it's only fair to now, if you join for the whole year, so to say, to get a bit of a discount. And I'm gonna let Duna say a bit more about this.
Yeah, so until now, for joining for the whole year, so that's getting every workshop that is gonna be in the future, as well as the recording of every workshop in the past, you would pay like 111. But now we are reducing that to 77 because we are in the seventh sign of the zodiac, and we are just for $77, as we are doing it in dollars, right? Yeah,
Yes.
yes. So just for $77, we give you access to all the recordings of all the workshops with example charts, with very in-depth detail about the transits that have already been, and some of them are still going because we did talk about Uranus in Gemini, for example. So like we give you a whole perspective on like the different ways that this can show you in your life. And then the example charts, I think, are where we sign more and where we see the kind of like aspects of it they can come out to life in the people's lives. And all of that, the whole year. You already get 6 full recordings as of the moment that you join. It's only 77 for the whole year. So, and you can decide if you want to come to the workshops or if you want to see the recordings. We always encourage people to come to the workshops because that way it's more fun. And also because there's the non-recorded part that we do with people's shares that is like also where we kind of tend to talk about the personal experiences of the science more. And I feel like that's where you also learn more about the decans. So all of that with a discount. Um, if you
Yeah.
only want to go into the Libra one for whatever reason, it's gonna be $11, and it's gonna be on October 12th.
12th. Yeah.
Yes, October
October
12th at
12th.
7:30 p.m. Central Standard European Time. And I think that's out of the way. We can start with the decans now. right?
Yeah, I think we said everything. Well, maybe one thing that I can say is the workshops are
Yes.
always happening on Sunday. And again, just to be clear, it is recorded, so you can get the recording, but we do encourage people to show up live because, as you said, it's more fun. And also, since we now like have like a big playlist, you could almost say. It is also always linked down below. So if you want to go through all the decans, I made a playlist where you can go through all the decans from Aries till, well, with Libra now. So you can watch all the decans if you want to. There's a playlist for it and it's going to be linked down below. And yeah, I think with this we can officially start with the Libra decans.
Okay, let's get into the drama.
Yeah.
So, so the first decan of Libra, it's called by Austin Kopok a blindfold and a sword. And the rulers of this decan are the moon in Chaldean order and Venus in Ptolemaic order. And the images of the decan, it's usually a man reading a book or with a pipe or both of them. And it's said to mean to be helping the merciful and weak against the powerful and wicked. So he's learning to help the ones that are less privileged. And we'll get more into this as we go over the card as well, but a general vibe that I get with this decan because of having the moon and Venus here is kind of like gut feelings or like subconscious knowing of the fairness of things. So kind of like the ethical subconscious way that we see things coming up in our lives. And also in like a general kind of like mundane astrology way, it also kind of means justice for the common people because the mix of the moon and Venus significations is justice, Venus, and the common people or the normal people, the populace that is the moon. And the card is the two of swords.
Yeah, so before I show the full card, I just want to actually say that the tarot
Yes.
cards I'm using are from this deck, is the Trip and Wait tarot deck. So it is a bit more psychedelic, and you are literally going to see why right now. Because this is a two of swords. Um, and it is a bit different. We were going through the cards before, and we were like, I think these cards are the ones that changed the most, if I can put it that way, because in the original Wait deck, this person has a blindfold on. In this deck, it doesn't have a blindfold on. I feel like it looks a lot more serious there. Here, here it actually kind of looks a lot more fun, um, which is cool. I actually really like the way it looks here. But I do think it screams justice a lot. Like if there's another card besides justice that looks like justice, it's this one. And what a better card to associate with Libra. That is like justice is such a big word for Libra, right? And again, as you said, there is something about, okay, let me put it this way. The air signs are, they're not our emotions. They're much more in tune with like our thoughts and our thinking and all of that. And so there is something that has to do with the mind here, even though there's the moon association there. But Libra moons, all air moons, they are pretty head heavy. They have a harder time. They usually think their emotions instead of like really feeling them. And so when a Libra moon is kind of going over a sense of justice, it's like it's going on here. Than here. And there is like something of a sharp mind that can be said here as well. And I think also there needs to be a trust in some sort of like cosmic intelligence that weaves everything in. But there's a lot that I would want to say about that, but I am actually going to leave that for the workshop, to be completely honest. But is there anything else that you want to say about this card, Duna? I mean, there's like this big peace sign, right? On
Yeah,
top of this card.
I was thinking that of the decans, and we'll get more in the workshop into this as well. But of the Decans of Libra, this is the one that has the ruler as the ruler of the sign, as ruler of the
Yeah.
Decan, and it's also the one that has two nocturnal planets. With Libra being a diurnal sign, I feel like again, our air signs as diurnal signs are very on the mind and very about ideas. But the
Hmm.
nocturnal quality is very about the body. So I feel like this is the Decan where it comes more the side of Libra that is kind of like about how you appreciate beauty and justice and like kind of like the ethical part of Libra comes up very much in this decan in a very different way. It's gonna come up in the second decan as well, but in a very different way.
Mm,
Because here I feel like it comes more from like a very deep personal place and a very like emotional place
agreed.
with it being so nocturnal. But I feel like that's what I wanna say. I don't know if you wanna add anything before I read
Yeah.
the poem. Yes.
That's good because there is, I feel like if people have planets in this specific decan of Libra, they're gonna have some sort of inner compass of what is just or what is unjust, and they're gonna be very attuned to things that are happening globally, maybe between people relationally, and just be like very in tune to like where has there been an imbalance, like what is not right, where was injustice done, and like really having this urge to be the force to balance things out. In that case, having planets here is probably like a good for lawyers or people that work in institutions and things like that. So I guess we're gonna see when we go through the example charts if that is true or not.
Okay. Yes. So I'm gonna read the poem now, which is from the 36 Secrets book by T. Susan Chang. We use this book as primary source a lot, and within other books like Rivers' book and Austin Coe books and other sources about the decans. And each decan has associated a poem, and this one is a very short one, and it's called Invisible by Jose Garcia Villa. My body is a bottle of white glass. Why has not somebody poured red wine into me that I should become beautiful? My body is a green leaf. Why have I not dried that I should blow away to infinity with many winds?
Love it.
Yes. And we can go to the second decan now. So very different vibes. Libra 2 is called Two Links of a Chain by Austin Kopok, and the rulers of this decan are both in the Chaldean and the Ptolemaic order, Saturn and Saturn. And the images of this decan are usually people arguing. So there's usually like two men furiously and arguing and wrathfully, or it's like a man in a comely garment sitting in a chair pronouncing an oath. So there's both the fight and arguing part and the oath, or the like making a judgment or something, or like binding yourself to something. And in general, this second for me feels very much about the power of contracts and ties, and about kind of like what we owe to other people and how the things that we say or words, very Libra, very earthen, kind of like bind us to things and establish like that, yeah, that chain.
Yeah.
And and the car is a Three of Swords, which a lot of people know because it's one of the most
Yes.
tattooed cars in the world.
I
Uh,
have a tattoo of I have a tattoo of this card. So, but it's way more psychedelic in this deck, of course. This is not how the Three of Swords usually looks, but I actually really like that. I like this one. Um, in the Rider-Waite deck, it's a bit more bloody, you could say. Um, yeah. That's just what I want to say here. Wait, I feel like where is good lighting? what I think is very interesting about this card is that it's one of the rare cards that does not have any people in it, which is rather rare for the minor arcana cards. The um the aces, they are also only just things. Like the Ace of Cups is also just one cup and all of that. But in the minor arcana, there's usually always people involved because the minor arcanas are very like about relational and things and blah blah blah.
There's two cards that done that
Yeah.
one and such three or such two. I don't know, but
True. Yeah.
yeah,
So it is a rather rare card. I think also showing the objectivity of Libra very well here. And let's not forget that Saturn is in exaltation in the sign of Libra. So Saturn actually does extremely well in the sign of Libra, which is what I think a lot of people are always surprised to hear when they stumble upon this for the first time, but it does actually make a lot of sense once you start looking to it on a deeper matter. Because Saturn is basically what I contribute to like Saturn Venus, which is the like Libra's place, is like the beauty of justice, you know, and justice is usually something that takes a long time. It's not something that just happens, you know. If there's, you know, karma, it does not just happen instantly. Sometimes it takes years for things to develop, and I feel like that's like the beauty of Libra and like the beauty of like Venus and Saturn together, and like also the things that stood the test of time. I know this card is also often associated with heartbreak, but it's also equally associated with overcoming your obstacles and your limitations and your shortcomings and your heartbreaks as well, which is so Saturnine. Especially Saturn in an exalted position would actually contribute to being able to face your maybe your limitations and your obstacles, and ultimately, you know, find the thing that surpasses timelessness and is everlasting, which is what usually a lot of people find in something like uh, the source or God or the universe or however you want to call it. And I do think this card speaks to a lot of that. But yeah, there's I don't know. I personally I think this is one of the most interesting cards and the most interesting decans, but I might be biased, even though I don't even have anything in this decan. But I just think it's an interesting card. But do you have anything to add, Duna?
yeah. Actually, when you mentioned the exaltation, I knew you were gonna mention that. That's why I didn't mention because I wanna
Of
like kind of brief
course.
off of that. Um, I think it's very interesting, and as we get to this part of the zodiac, there's two places that are said to be the most Saturnian places. This one, and we'll get to that when we get to Scorpio. The most Martian place of the zodiac is the first decan of Scorpio. So the most Saturnian place, but in a lot of ways. And again, we'll get way deeper about this into the workshops, which is kind of like what we do with them as well. But it's in a lot of ways. Saturn has exaltation on Libra, Saturn has triplicity on Libra, and it's a diurnal planet. So it's all the ways that Saturn could feel comfortable in a sign if come up here. And that's very, very rare. More so because it's the ruler of both the Chaldean and the Ptolemaic order. So it's kind of like the most Saturnian place of the whole zodiac. And in that way, I feel like Libra gets the kind of like unbreakable oath. This is like the place of the zodiac where you make like really like tangible agreements that last the test of time. And about the heartbreak thing, I feel like it's also associated with heartbreak because when you make a really important agreement or when you make an oath, when you compromise to someone, when you even, I don't know, marry someone or like entangle yourself in a very deep way, when you have a child, for example, you can't really untangle that without a lot of pain. So there's like the reality of severance. So this decan kind of shows you like if it's worth like having these attachments and what they mean to you and how they affect your life. which I feel like it's again very Saturnian and very deep. And we'll go more about this
Oh yeah,
in the
100%.
workshop because there's a lot of very interesting charts. I'm just gonna say I will talk about Arthur Rimbaud in the workshop. So that's one of my favorite charts. So excited. But
Great.
it's not a Rimbaud poem that I'm gonna read now because it's not what this Susan Chance put in her book. It's an Eleanor Willie poem, also amazing poet. And it's called Now Let Not Charitable Hope. Now let not charitable hope confuse my mind with images of eagle and of antelope. I am by nature none of this. I was being human, born alone. I am being woman, harvested. I live by squeezing from a stone what little nourishment I get. In masks outrageous and austere, the years go by in single file, but none has merited my fear, and none has quite escaped my smile. Yeah, that was a heavy one. Should I go to the last one?
Heck yeah.
Um, Much more like less heavy vibes. Libra 3 is called by a single book a gyroscope, which is kind of like a really cool instrument that you use to see, between other things, the light of the sun and the stars. So that's very interesting. And the images of the Decan are a man holding breath in one hand and a cup of wine in the other. So the general commentary of this Decan is kind of like, oh, the rulers of the Decan. This is very funny, but I just forgot about this in this one. Uh, the rulers are
Oh yeah, true.
Mercury. Yes, the rulers are Jupiter in Chaldean order and Mercury in Ptolemaic order, which are also the rulers of one of the decans of Gemini. I think it's the first one. Yeah, it's the first one. So I said that's funny because this second is very much associated with like balancing contradicting things, kind of like the more part of Libra that we probably haven't talked that much about, which is kind of like the people pleasing and like social mediator, social butterfly part of Libra. That comes very, very, very much in the second. And it comes a lot in the charts that we're going to talk about in the workshop. And it comes kind of in the car, which is the Four of Swords. And I'm gonna let Amelia talk about this, but I feel like for me, when I was looking at the car, it kind of talk about the consequences of this decan. So kind of like this kind of like overwhelm of the senses. What
Mhm.
can it mean? Or this kind of like being a social mediator, or like always trying to like make everyone happy.
Yes, so this is the card. Once again, so psychedelic. I mean, of course, it's a tripping white tarot deck, but again, it has been changed a bit. Um, the original card has the three swords up here, and one sword is kind of down here in the bed. But here they decided to put all of the four swords in the image. And it's also this like super psychedelic image, this what is it called? Mendelbrot or something like that, I think these effect. Anyways, it's not
I
really
don't know.
relevant, but I think it fits very well with the way that Austin calls this decan. That's actually the point that I wanted to make. Um, and in this case, I feel like this decan is, well, with like Jupiter there and Libra being ruled by Venus, it's like two benefics there. A lot of times this can be very, I think this decan is a lot like comfort zoney, you could say.
Mm.
Like what is the downside of being in the comfort zone? In a way, it's very joyful because clearly he is listening to music here. He's just jamming, he's just chilling, and that's fine. But the question is like, where does it start not being fine? And where are you indulging in an unhealthy way? I think that's kind of what this decan asks here in question. And again, on the other hand, it could also very much talk about overwhelm. with a lot of thoughts, and because again it's an air sign, and Jupiter doesn't have a specific dignity in the sign of Libra, neither does Mercury, which is also co-ruling this decan. Like none of them have any specific dignity, but it just goes to show that it has a lot to do with our thinking, with our communication. Probably because with Libra, the thing is, they are often overly focused on other people, and I feel like that could as might as well also be visible in this decan. And if you have any placements in this decan, it might really showcase how you are maybe projecting things onto other people, or just like overly focused on like who did what to who. It's a bit of like a gossipy decan, not gonna lie. Which again, it can go both ways. It's definitely it's beautiful to be consumed by how to better society or how to help other people. It can easily also go south and you're just like unnecessarily focusing your mind and thoughts on people's issues that you don't have to be focusing on. And I think that's kind of what this decan is really talking about. So, is there anything you have to add or say?
Yeah, one small
Artsy.
thing which I feel like it really adds to the way that this decan is very like all the things that you describe and said feel very mind brainy more than the other two ones that we have talked about. This is like balancing things and like if you are you really like doing things for yourself or for other people? Are you staying in your comfort zone? It feels like very overthinking on here. And actually, Jupiter and Mercury do have triplicity dignity here, both of them, because of the air signs.
Okay, sure.
So, yes.
But not direct dignity.
I mean, you don't make like triplicity less. It's like it's a type of dignity, but I feel like it's said to be like helping out, right? Kind of like it's your
That for
team,
sure.
it's
That for
your
sure.
but I feel like here is like helping the air stuff. So like kind of inflating this sense of like being really in your head, be really about
Mm-hmm.
ideas. And that is
Agreed.
very much more like said in the second than in the other two ones.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's again, it looks very comfy in this specific deck, to be completely honest. But in the other deck, it doesn't look as comfortable as it does here. So that's just, I guess, what I want to add here. It could easily be like, oh gosh, I'm so overwhelmed and I'm laying in bed, and instead of actually going into motion and doing something, I'm overthinking all the things he said, she said type of situation. Yeah, and just like yeah, having like a bigger focus on other people, what is just, what is unjust, what did somebody do, and kind of the yeah, like how overwhelming and hard it can be if you are just constantly putting so much energy towards that and not you. And that's why I actually like that the original one has a sword in the bed as well,
Yeah,
because
like
it
safe here.
exactly, it almost kind of goes to show that you're it's a double-edged sword. That's what I wanted to say. So,
Yeah, totally. And you're like
great.
saving your forces, so, like doing like yeah, I'll use this later.
Yeah,
But when are you gonna use it?
exactly. Interesting deck, and for sure.
For sure. So for this Susan Chang doesn't have a poem because sometimes he goes on a tangent, and this is like an explanation. It's like an excerpt from the preface to Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth, which is kind of like an explanation of like lyrical poetry in the Romanticism, with teasing a little bit of the workshop here. We will talk about Oscar Wilde because that's a son in the second. So and there's a lot of, I didn't say it, but I will leave it for the workshop as well. There's a lot of queerness in this decan because Mercury usually brings that to the science.
And we also had a lot of rappers. Not, I don't know if it's specifically for this deck, but just in Libra in general. We were
We do have a
surprised
lot of
how many
rappers,
rappers have Libra sons.
totally. So yeah, reading this poem. Well, it's not a poem.
Yeah.
I have said that romantic poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes its origins from emotion recollected in tranquility. The emotion is contemplated till, by a species of reaction, the tranquility gradually disappears, and an emotion, kindred to that which was before the subject of contemplation, is gradually produced, and thus itself actually exists in the mind. In this mood, successful composition generally begins, and in a mood similar to this, it is carried out. I love that everything is poems, and in this one, it's just an explanation of how to make a poem because it's so here.
Yeah, I love that.
So we're done with
Great.
Libra. We hope to see you all in the workshop on October 12th at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard European Time. And again, we'll bring up a lot of charts and we'll have fun with the extravagant Libras and the rappers and everything.
Heck yeah. The links to sign up will be down in the description below. And if you have any sort of questions, feel free to comment or feel free to send us an email or messages on Instagram. We'll gladly answer. So, yeah, thanks for having you here. And we're going to see each other soon. So, bye for now.